Today, Kash Patel, Trump's pick for FBI director, faced a heated Senate confirmation hearing. Democrats hammered him over his past comments on January 6th. Does he have a deep state enemies list that he's got, like Santa Claus, got a naughty list, like he's going to go after these individuals, these deep state actors inside the government? Actually, I really actually hope so. Patel fired back, though, saying he won't play politics and that all of the FBI agents will be protected from retaliation. He also went toe-to-toe with one of the worst people in America, that's Congressman Adam Schiff. And when Schiff tried to get him to look at Capitol Police and turn around for his little dog and pony show, he wouldn't do it. Watch this.
I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire life,
it in song,
and I did not make a single dime out of it.
In song.
Yeah, he also talked about, of course, he has multiple family members that are members of the police force and law enforcement, and so they try to push him on that. Senator Dick Durbin called him unqualified, which is amazing because Senator Dick Durbin is the same senator that refused to release the Epstein list, of course. So, of course, he's scared of all the Democratic pedophiles that it will reveal. He also vowed to remove, I think, 11,000 FBI employees, not necessarily agents, but employees, I guess, once he gets into that office. So how corrupt is the FBI? Let's ask Nate Kane, FBI Hillary Clinton whistleblower. He knows all about the corruption. He joins us now. He certainly blew the whistle on all of the absolute corruption inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation as it related to Hillary Clinton and more. Nate, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you've been a whistleblower inside the FBI. How corrupt is it? And do you think that Kash Patel is the right man to clean up the FBI?
It's absolutely woke, especially particularly in D.C. I've known a lot of people in the FBI that are at other field offices. It is certainly not the same environment there as it is in Washington. But there were several things that kind of came out in this hearing that I was really glad to hear. One of the things that Kash Patel had mentioned, and actually it was the Democrats that really brought this on him, they were bringing up comments that he had made on a podcast before about shutting down the FBI headquarters and turning it into a deep state museum, which I thought was pretty funny and pretty accurate. But he clarified that what he wants to do is really downsize the presence of the FBI in Washington, D.C., and spread those resources out to other places across the United States, which is absolutely appropriate. And I think that's one of the problems, is that you have a real culture in Washington, D.C. that is just corrupt. There's also some other things that I think they kept doing. They kept bringing up his book, of course. They kept bringing up the song that was the national anthem song that was sang by January 6ers, and trying to tie him to some of those. There was, I think, two people in that whole group that, had committed violence against, the Capitol Police. And so they were trying to tie him to that, which was ridiculous. And I think that he did a very good job of holding his ground and not allowing them to kind of trip him up with some of their questions. They were asking questions that, really had no relevance to the FBI director. And I thought he did a really excellent job. One of the statements that he made to me that was, I think, like the highlight of the hearing was, he said, "I will not tolerate an FBI that targets political adversaries. I will not tolerate an FBI that has political enemies lists. And I will not tolerate an FBI that surveils Americans without legal justification." And that last one is, to me, the most important one, because as we have seen, there have been hundreds of thousands of illegal uses of Section 702 of FISA against American citizens.
Yeah, that's a good question. You brought up FISA. I mean, we've been hammering that on this show. Kyle Seraphin, we've had as a guest many times here on the show to really hit on this 702 issue. Do you think that, where does he come down on 702, which allows basically this sort of dragnet to capture Americans using the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to kind of spy on Americans? Where do you think he comes down on all of that specifically?
Well, Kash Patel has the advantage of having worked on both sides. Actually, he started off, as a defense attorney, and so he understands the rights of a defense. He understands the rights of individuals against illegal search and seizure. He also, though, has worked in the NSC. He worked with the HIPSI. He's got a knowledge of our enemies and the threats, to our country and what tools like FISA have done to help protect our country. The thing is that Obama changed the rules in the very last months, at the end of his, at the end of his presidency. And those rules, one of the things that it did was it allowed for there to be unmasking and for that unmasked information to be passed from one agency to another. That was something that was not there before. I was read onto this program when I worked for Marforce Cyber. I was part of a detachment to NSA on a national mission to go after those that would, want to hack our national critical infrastructure. And so I do think that these tools can be very important, but the limited amount of oversight is not enough. There needs to be way more oversight. And more important than anything, if these guys abuse this and they violate it, they need to go to jail. And there's been no accountability. If there's no consequences, people will continue to abuse it.
Now, speaking of abuse of power, we just showed you a clip from Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, we saw in the Twitter files, asked Twitter to release information showing that Russia was manipulating Twitter. Twitter said we didn't find anything like that, so they went after Twitter. He was #1 propagandist about the Trump-Russia scandal. But yet, as journalist Aaron Mate points out, he asked not one question to the head of the FBI, the candidate for this. Doesn't this show that this fool has egg on his face and that he's only performing theater? Shouldn't we get the hook, so to speak? I'm pissed about it, as you can see. Let me let you answer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get worked up.
No, absolutely. In fact, I have great disdain for Adam Schiff. As a whistleblower, I went to great lengths to bring hundreds of pages of classified documents to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and I had to go through a very rigorous process. It was reviewed by Horowitz. He gave it a credibility rating and went to great lengths to make sure that these documents got into the right hands because it was a matter of national security of urgent concern. An investigation had been started 4 months after those documents were received. The House changed hands and Adam Schiff became the chair, and he shut down the investigation into the FBI's cover-up of Hillary Clinton's crimes. So that man should be investigated and should go to jail.
I think there's copious research behind that too. That's not a conspiracy. There's a lot to see there. We have seen how he peddles in conspiracy, and it's so rich that he said to Kash Patel, well, you have made money off of this. Every time there's some kind of Russiagate scandal that he's perpetuated, he fundraises on it. You can tell I'm apoplectic about it. Now, tell me about the Epstein list, because we saw that Senator Marsha Blackburn said, will you commit to opening this up? Who do you think is shaking in your boots? And what I put on X is someone needs to get that guy a royal food taster if he's saying, yes, I will open the Epstein list. Who stands to lose from this, do you think?
Well, I think there are world leaders. I think there are possibly members of our own government, maybe in members of Congress for all we know. And I think there might be judges as well. This has been it's been 5.5 years, right? 5 years, 5 months since the raiding of Epstein Island. It does not take 5 years to conduct an investigation. Now, if they clearly had enough evidence to arrest and put in jail Ghislaine Maxwell for human trafficking, who did she traffic to? Obviously, they know who that is. And those people need to be brought to justice.
Right.
Nate, I'll get you out of here on this, which is, What does Kash Patel need to do on day one? We saw over 300 executive orders from President Trump on day one. If he is confirmed when he walks into the FBI, what would you say to get rid of this corruption? What does he need to do on day one?
Well, it's interesting. You know, Trump went and fired 17 inspector generals. Who he did not fire was the DOJ inspector general. And Michael Horowitz has investigated multiple investigations into the FBI and their abuses of power, their leaking information to the press for basically favors, abuses of Section 702 and FISA. I think his best bet would be to get together with Michael Horowitz, have Michael Horowitz refer all of those criminal complaints to him again, because now you have different leadership. And then he should go after everybody who has abused those tools, who's been identified by Michael Horowitz. I think that would be the best thing that he could do to immediately figure out who have been the people here who have been behind a lot of this. I mean, obviously he has a list of, of some of the actors that he knows about, but I'm talking about, the internal people in the FBI that maybe weren't covered in the media. Michael Horowitz knows who they are.
Can I ask you just one more question? The sort of entertainment Hollywood type question is, what do you think his sentiment was looking at these people who he has dirt on clearly through Operation Medusa? He said many times that every time the press came after me, I knew I was over the target. And he has. So these people.
He has the receipts.
The nerve of these people asking him the questions for the cameras. His eyes to me say, I know what you don't want me to know.
I know what you're up to.
Is that what you see, or is this me wanting to see that?
No, I think you're right. In particular, when Adam Schiff was, questioning him, I looked at his face and he had his eyes changed. His eyes changed to a more piercing look, like he was pissed. And like he was looking, just you wait, buddy, until I get in there. And I hope that, look, I don't want to see any more politicization of the FBI, but I do want to see justice. I think the American people need to see justice. If we don't, then the FBI should be disbanded. Because the fact is, we cannot have an agency with this much power, that plays favorites. It should be equal justice under the law, and that includes these folks who committed crimes while working at the FBI, while having the public trust.
Nate Cain, American hero who blew the whistle on the Hillary Clinton corruption and cover-up inside the FBI. Thank you for your service to this nation. You can watch Nate on his show, theRaisingCaneShow.com. Nate, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. A lot of other news today, too. Of course, we saw Tulsi Gabbard. Western Lensman just summed this up. He posted this. Tulsi Gabbard, at her hearing today, just took apart the Russia hoax, the Dirty 51 laptop letter, Clapper, Brennan, weaponized FBI in her opening statement, and then it got personal. She said, just 24 hours after I criticized Kamala Harris in her nomination, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. So she just dismantled everyone with her opening statement. Watch this, just a clip of this. Watch.
The American people elected Donald Trump as their president not once but twice, and yet the FBI and intelligence agencies were politicized by his opponents to undermine his presidency and falsely portray him as a puppet of Putin. Title I of FISA was used illegally to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, using a Clinton campaign-funded false dossier as their so-called evidence. Biden campaign advisor Tony Blinken was the impetus for the 51 former senior intelligence officials' letter dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation specifically to help Biden win the election. Former DNI James Clapper lied to this committee in 2013, denying the existence of programs that facilitated the mass collection of millions of Americans' phone and internet records, yet was never held accountable. Under John Brennan's leadership, the CIA abused its power to spy on Congress, to dodge oversight, lied about doing it until he was caught, and yet has never been held responsible. Under Biden, the FBI abused its power for political reasons to try to surveil Catholics who attend traditional Latin Mass, labeling them as quote-unquote radical traditionalist Catholics. Personally, just 24 hours after I criticized Kamala Harris and her nomination, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. Sadly, there are more examples. The bottom line is this must end.
Hallelujah.